Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Toronto. I'm Marcia Sutcliffe in the booth with Jacob Van Linnen. We are pleased to bring you round 6 coverage here this round. 2 of the game's greats are battling here in the mid stages of day 1. We've got our current world champion, Shenhar on the left-hand side. Looks like he's brought some Foundry Street denizens to the table here on mono red. And he is playing against Paul Rezel, the Hall of Famer, who looks like he's playing Obs on aggro just from the Warden of the First Tree. That's the only deck that I know of that runs it currently.
Yeah, it's the only one I know of that runs
so
it currently.
I'm going to assume that for now, and it looks like we've got a little misspelling, but it is Obs on aggro there for Paul Rezel. So we have a little slugfest on our hands here, Jake. These two decks looking to go at it. Now, we talk a lot about being one step ahead, one step behind in these type of matchups. Paul's got to be the one step behind deck here. Is that going to favor him or be a detriment?
I mean, it definitely favors him when he's on the play, being one step behind. And when draws are clunkier, when people aren't curving out, it also favors him a lot. I think the major issue is that cards are so powerful these days that being one step behind isn't always good enough.
Like you might not get that step back?
Yeah. I mean,
like look at this right here, right? Shenhar just attacked for 3 on the second turn of the game, and he's already got 3 power plus on the board.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the dangerous thing that this mono red deck can do. I mean, you have an aggressive draw, you end up having, 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop. If he has a card like Rabble Master in his hand.
There it is. He's also got a Goblin Heel Cutter and a Wild Slash. Are you assuming that Rezel's going to take the Rabble Master here as it's the most outright powerful card in Shenhar's hand?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the fact that he can play it next turn also, and then Paul won't have the mana up to use a removal spell, so Shenhar is guaranteed to get value, and then his Denizen is even going to become,
bigger and then bigger again.
Power guy, yeah. And it's just, I think that the Rabble Master locks up his mana essentially for multiple turns.
Now
Heel Cutter is kind of insane here.
Yeah.
Right.
He can use it in the flexibility aspect of Dash by playing it next turn for 3 mana. It gives him something to do with the mana. And then going forward into the game, Paul Rezel's first blocker becomes much less of a factor. Even if it is something big like a Fleece Mane line that would normally do a decent job of holding back a bunch of small creatures. And you know what? Paul's going to take the Heel Cutter. He says, I'm going to take my medicine here from the Rabble Master, but this is not good news for Paul Rezel.
Not at all. I mean, sure, he took the Heel Cutter. Now he might be able to stick a Siege Rhino and try to stabilize, but he's just.
But he's taking 6 this turn.
Yeah, he's dead.
He's taking 6 this turn.
Yeah, he just took 2 from that Thoughtseize. I mean, he's already been attacked for 3.
Yes.
He's on the draw. Shenhar was able to go 1, 2, 3 through Thoughtseize. Not looking good.
No, not looking good at all. There's that Warden of the First Tree, though, for Paul Rezel, which is just a lowly 1/1 as it sits. Now, that does threaten to trade for the Foundry Street Denizen, which does take 3 damage off the table here for Shenhar, assuming he goes for the Rabble Master play. Now, Shenhar does have another option ahead of him.
He just drew.
He can Wild Slash if he wants, too.
Well, he drew Monastery Swift Spear also, so he could Swift Spear and Wild Slash this turn.
That seems better.
Yeah, that seems like...
Nice draw for Shenhar.
The absolute best draw possible. Not the best draw possible.
So this is 2, 4, 6 damage now. He's actually getting in for even more, dropping Rezel down to 8. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This mono red deck is something fierce. This thing just beats heads in. Rezel is playing a low curve aggressive deck, and he simply cannot keep up with the amount of threats that Shenhar can commit to the board this early in the game.
And I mean, even these, single points of damage from things like fetch lands, the 2 points of damage from the Thoughtseize, those are adding up really fast.
That's right. The Pain Land got him. He got Llanowar wasted last time.
And I mean, Shenhar can just play Goblin Rabble Master.
And just jam here.
I think you do.
Yeah. So this is 2 triggers on the Foundry Street Denizen, 1 from the Rabble Master, 1 from the token. Becomes 3/1. It's going to get blocked by Anaffenza, but in the meantime, 4 damage is going to hit Paul Rezel. And this thing could be over pretty quickly here. Paul, I don't think he has main deck answers to get himself out of this particular mess. Even if he had a Bile Blight here, would that get him out? I guess it would.
Yeah, I guess he could survive.
He could survive. He could wait till the token comes in, kill it. And he would technically be alive. He could be at 1. Now, if Shenhar had any instant or sorcery or any non-creature spell, I should say, he would just be dead. That would do it. Any other thing with haste, he would just be dead. Any burn spell, he's dead. Yeah. I mean, the list of spells in Shenhar's deck is not that long that don't kill Paul in that. And that's assuming that he had a Bile Blight, which is not a safe assumption at all. You see Shenhar wearing his I got to play a Pro Tour Hall of Famer pin, which I'm sure Rezel just handed him.
Yeah, I mean,
showing him some respect there.
Pretty cool.
That is cool. Shenhar hopes to be a Hall of Famer one day himself.
I think he is very much on his way to doing so. I mean, the fact that he's a back-to-back world champion.
And that he's still like 12.
Yeah, I mean.
All right, he's like 20,
absurd.
21 now, but still.
But back-to-back
very
world
young
champion. The event has only existed for 3 years. So he is 2/3 of the world championship victors.
And he is 1/3 of the way to winning this match as well, as Paul Rezel falls to Shenhar. Shenhar, as you can see, is currently ranked 10th on our top 25 pro rankings, and Paul's actually right behind him at 13th. Very consistent performer is Paul Rezel. Remember, he's on the Hall of Fame. He doesn't have to come out to all these GPs. He's got his qualifications for the Pro Tour, but this guy loves to play Magic. He wants to make his seat at the World Championship.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who works a full-time job. This is somebody who, Magic is not his life. And Paul continues to put up these kind of numbers. Paul is something special. And, you know, he's a Hall of Famer. That kind of speaks for itself.
All right, let's jump over and see what the old calculator's up to over there. Christian Calcano is playing against another Hall of Famer down in the feature match area. This is William Huey Jensen, playing interesting blue-white control. So he has not picked up dragons for this particular tournament. And it looks like Calcano hasn't either. He's just on straight-up blue-black control. And the Telltale Perilous Vault there for the blue-black list says he's not playing dragons. Interesting stuff here from these two control players down there. Now, I know that Randy is having a chat earlier with Cuneo about, Andrew Cuneo, who's also playing blue-white, about how they felt the matchup went against the Dragons deck, and Cuneo felt that the blue-white deck was a favorite against that deck. Now, how do you think that these two decks match up? Remember, Calcano's not on Dragons, he's on traditional blue-black.
So it's interesting because I think both these people set their decks up to be well-positioned against the Dragons deck. So now, I think this matchup is kind of set up to last forever.
I mean, you see, we're in game one here. The life totals are 23 to 21. There's 10 or 12 lands out each.
It would very much surprise me if every game played in this match did not end by somebody decking the other person.
Okay.
Barring some very, very, very bad draws.
Now, you're assuming this because of the threat to answer density and how it's out of whack?
Yeah, I mean, both players have probably 3 to 1 answer to threat ratio. And post-board, their decks get even leaner. So, I mean, when push comes to shove, they should be able to answer everything that's presented to them on the other side of the table. And, you know, it basically comes down to constantly counting your library, constantly counting your opponent's library, and trying to keep it. Like, one more card there.
Right.
Because if you're going to win this match, you're going to have to deck your opponent, which is kind of awesome.
That is kind of sweet, and as we see that,
some people think it's weird, but
no, I think that's kind of cool. I think that is too.
Some high-level stuff.
The funny part is watching players. You know, these guys are, you know, they've been playing control decks for a long time, so they'll know what the game plan is from the get-go once they see what the matchup looks like. But you know, sometimes you'll see people that are newer to control decks, and they won't actually realize right away that this is actually going to come down to decking. Like they're still trying to jam threats, and I'm going to get you with this Planeswalker, and it often doesn't work out that way. But Calcano just unabashedly churning through his library here. He's playing Dig Through Time and Jace's Ingenuity and a Dissipate, which is going to hit a Dig Through Time on William Jensen's side of the battlefield here. We're going to have a little scuffle here, gentlemen. I see a Disdainful Stroke in hand for Jensen. No, that wasn't his hand. Sorry, Disdainful Stroke that was exiled. Thanks to the delve from Dig Through Time, and it looks like the dust has settled on that particular fray with Huey, number 11 in the world, not resolving his Dig Through Time. So back and forth we go once again. Huey is going to anticipate on Calcano's end step here to try to keep the card draw flowing. Remember, both Anticipate and Dig Through Time put the rest of the cards on the bottom of the library, so they're not, you know, going to churn through that whole decking scenario that fast.
And here, I'd be interested to see how many cards each player had in their library.
All right, let's jump back to our main match because I think those guys will be there for a while, Jake.
Yeah,
They were still.
I'd wager dollars to donuts that we will have this match over and done with, even if it goes to 3 games before that match finishes in the first game.
I agree. So let's jump back over while we can do this one while those guys sort out who's going to get to resolve dig through times and planeswalkers. Those are not going to be on the table here for these two gentlemen. No, they're looking to slug it out, and we've got a really nice start here for Rezel, who of course is on the play of this game. He gets a turn 2 Fleece main line, which is going to do a nice job of getting in the way of this Fire Drinker Satyr if it survives. And it does. Shahar's on a 1-lander, and he's going to play a Monastery Swiftspear, but he has no other play thanks to just the Singleton Mountain there. It means he doesn't even get to play a mountain attack with his Fire Drinker Satyr to threaten, a trade there. And Twin Lions here for Rezel plus perfect mana means that he is going to be off to a great start. A nice draw there for Shenhar, a second mountain. He's got a roast in his hand. He can take care of one of these lions right now if he wants.
He may just want to hold on to the roast for something like a Siege Rhino, especially if he has another 1-drop in his stand, because he does have Titan Strength. So he might just want to
trade off one of these creatures.
Yeah, I mean, if you attack with Swiftspear, you actually
you get through.
Yeah, you get through because it goes to a 2/3 from Prowess, and then it goes to a 5/4 from the Titan Strength. So he's just going to offer up that trade.
The Scry's nice too. So Rezel does block with one of the Fleece mains, and that compels Shenhar to pump his Fire Drinker Satyr, and he's pretty happy actually to get that trade out. He got to keep his spells in hand on that transaction. It was a hit though. Shahar's falling pretty quickly. That dropped him to 16, and then he took 3 from the Fleece main, and now another 3 from the Siege Rhino that followed up. And Shenhar finds himself from 19 to 10 in a real hurry here.
Yeah, and here we see how going slightly bigger when you're on the play, I mean, especially when your opponent misses the land drop, but just being slightly bigger when you're on the play is kind of just a blowout.
It's sweet. Shenhar finds another mountain, and he's going to roast, take down the Siege Rhino like you mentioned. That's going to get double triggers on the Swiftspears and get him in there for 4 damage. So the race is on.
Absolutely.
Currently favoring Paul Rezel, but that can change very quickly back into Shenhar's direction, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen this time. As a little sideboard action here for Rezel, he's got a Drown in Sorrow to take out both Swiftspears, and he has a follow-up play with Ward of the First Tree. So Rezel firing on all cylinders here.
Yeah, Rezel.
I mean, look at those last few turns. Fleece main, and he's at 17 thanks to the follow-up Rhino, and then this turn was Drown in Sorrow for a 2-for-1 and play another threat. This is just savage. Okay, well, this is a good follow-up here for Shenhar. He's going to make a Goblin and attack with that. No trade there, of course, for Paul Rezel, because that Warden of the First Tree has much bigger things on its mind, like killing Shenhar soon. Another land drop here for Rezel. And, this is where, if you're in Shenhar, you have to start wondering if Rezel's got another copy of, like, Siege Rhino in his hand.
I think you just have to take this damage, though.
He can take up to 6 here, and he's going to. So Shenhar falls to 1. Not worried about Siege Rhino. Might be worried about it, but he knows it's not going to happen. That was an ultimate price to take down Goblin Rabblemaster. Paul Rezel passes the turn back, firmly in control of this game. He's got 2 lethal threats. Can Shenhar stabilize further from here? It's going to be tough.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that it's possible.
I mean, he could play a token maker of some sort and buy himself a little bit of time, but the Ward of the First Tree is now threatening to gain Trample.
Yeah, they trample and lifelink when Paul untaps. So, and Shenhar's in a position where it's really hard for him to pass the mana open. Because then, I mean, Paul can just, the world's his oyster. He can just be like, oh, okay, you're not pressuring me in the red deck. I'm playing cards like Siege Rhino.
Yes.
Tasigur. All these things that are so strong against you.
Yeah, and it's tough too because Paul has lethal up anyway, so Shenhar really is forced to do something here. He just simply can't sit. Okay, so he's going to lead off with Monastery Swiftspear and then play Dragon Fodder after that. So he needs to put 3 toughness in front. Oh, he's going to attack. Well, this just leaves him dead.
Yeah, he's dead on board now.
He's just dead on board now. Yep.
So it's not going to work out for him.
No, so Rezel is just going to have to dump the 4 mana into his Warden of the First Tree, and we'll call this one a game.
Yeah.
And he says, I'll give it trample, and that's going to do it. So Paul Rezel, Shenhar, he looks like he's teasing Shenhar a little bit, and that's going to do it for game 2. Paul evens things up. Now, the heavy lifting, though, you know, he gets some sideboard cards, which help out a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, having Drowning Sorrow, that's a pretty nice one.
Not on the play this time.
Yeah.
That's the tough part.
You know.
All right, let's take a look at game 1 of Huey Jensen versus Christian Calcano as they're still underway. Your prediction is holding strong. We're thinking the whole match might be done before this game 1's finished.
I'm pretty confident.
We're on our way here.
3 games before this finishes one. Although it looks like they're playing pretty fast, which is good. Yep. They're going to need to if they want to finish 2 games, let alone 1. So.
Dig through time for Calcano.
Last call for 2HG for playmats.
All right, so who are you going to start counting?
And GP rebound event.
And it looks like, is Huey's library bigger right now?
Yes, it does look like that from here, though, obviously.
Those events are
our angle isn't
Perfect for that.
Nice people in green shirts right at the red tables if you'd like to sign up. Also, we have some artists scheduled to leave in an hour. So if you're interested in getting something signed,
still no non-land permanents for either player here. Not a lot of those in either deck.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we talked about.
All right, here's an important one. Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. Now, this is the big payoff. This is what Calcano's been building up for this whole entire game, is to cast this and have enough counter spells to force it through, because if Ashiok sticks against blue-white, you should be in good shape. Here's Negate, followed by Dissolve.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It also doesn't take too many Ashiok activations to just put you ahead in that, you know, card race that we were talking about with the libraries, and you can just seal the deal anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it might even be that just 1 plus
it could be
activation from Ashiok is good enough to win this game.
But even then, Huey doesn't have access to cards like Hero's Downfall, so a lot of times Ashiok ends up sticking. You know, the Banishing Light type effects just aren't popular right now because of cards like Ugin, and you know, there's just a lot of ways for, you know, Dromica's Command and stuff like that. And we have a real fight on our hands here. Dig through time and response for Jensen, and that's actually going to get met with a Dissolve, which resolves. And here's a Dissolve now for Ashiok. So Huey's picking his fights carefully. This is a flurry of counter spells, another Dissolve for Calcano, and Jensen once again says, sure, that resolves. And he doesn't have anything. It looks like Calcano's putting himself in a position to win this game.
2 counter spells off the top of the deck there for Huey.
Yeah, that's huge. Although one of them was Nullify, which I don't even know if Calcano has anything that counters.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I would assume not. Like, even Pearl Lake Ancient, it doesn't counter. You know. Okay, here's Dragon Lord Ojutai, though, for Jensen, which at least threatens to hit Ashiok, but Ashiok will get 2 activations before Ojutai can kill it. So this is just perhaps a bit too slow, especially with Calcano sitting at 21 life. I think Calcano set up for Ashiok, stuck the Planeswalker, and I think that's going to actually propel him to victory here. There's a Perilous Vault for Calcano that he's not really incentivized to actually fire off here, I don't think. And there's a Hero's Downfall, and we've seen enough. Huey Jensen just doesn't have the firepower to go up against Calcano's sweet black Planeswalker there, and they're going to head to game 2. Now, this is going to be a much different match. It'll play out similarly, but the nullifies are coming out. They're going to be really reconfiguring their boards here.
I have a lot of trouble believing that Huey has a chance now, even. I think it's a 1-0 match.
Right, because Huey has to close out 2 games in order to pick up the win here.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably possible for him to force a draw, but winning this match... Oh, we're less than halfway done with the round? Wow. That's pretty impressive. For
Things have been cruising right along, there's no doubt about it. All right, so let's take a look at our opening hands here back on our main feature match. Shenhar has kept a no 1-drop hand. You don't see that very often from this deck, unless he sideboarded significantly to reduce the number of 1-drops. So I don't think he would do that. So interesting spot here for Shenhar. He better have a really nice 2-drop here, and it is actually quite a nice one. Eidolon of the Great Revel. a lot of Paul Rezel's cards fall into the 3 or less as far as converted mana cost goes, since he's playing the aggressive version of the deck. And the damage is going to start piling up pretty quickly. But one interesting thing about this play is that Rezel's deck is capable of piling up damage in the other direction, and all of Shenhar's cards fall into the category, so they're all going to be doing too.
Yeah, the thing about Eidolon of the Great Rebel is that it's also attacking while it's
Exactly.
Fireside Coloring. So, Paul's going to take some damage here. Then if Shenhar can follow up with a spot removal spell to deal with whatever Paul has, then he's also going to be attacking. So even though he's taking that damage from his Eidolon also, just the fact that he's backing it up with removal spells, it's as if it's a 4-power creature for 2 mana.
This is interesting because speaking of 4-power creatures, Shenhar just drew a Goblin Heel Cutter. And he can actually dash that in, get around the Eidolon, and even get in for a full 5 damage here. That's going to be a tough thing to turn down. He's also got a Lightning Strike, but he can wait on that. That's going to kill the Warden of the First Tree even later. And he's going for it. This is 5 damage, and when you get to this stage of the game with that Eidolon out, you just go for big chunks of damage when you can get them. You get it now, and Rezel's all the way down to 13 already.
Everybody is welcome, not just VIPs. So if you would like to ask some questions.
And that ward is still just a 1/1, and I don't know if Paul's really even going to have time to pump that thing.
No, and even if he does, he's going to be punished for it.
Yeah,
because Shenhar's got at least 1 Lightning Strike in his hand, and that's exactly what you don't want to see when you're playing Warden of the First Tree. Is a card like Lightning Strike, because you end up making a mana inefficient play versus what your opponent's doing, and it's just not where you want to be.
Some New Year waiting for you for the Modern Huda number 8 at the Chandra Banner.
So another land here for Shenhar, and I can't imagine he goes for Heel Cutter here, though.
It's just too likely to get killed.
I just feel like Paul certainly has a removal spell.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. And maybe the removal spell just has to hit the Eidolon?
Well, that's an interesting question there, because if that's the case, then you probably do just go for the Heel Cutter, because you're getting in for effectively 5 damage this turn if that's the case.
Yeah, all right.
There's the Heel Cutter. And remember, this is dodging.
The spell might have to hit the Heel Cutter.
It could. We know that Rezel respects that card. He took it with the Thoughtseize when his opponent had a for sure turn 3 Goblin Rabblemaster. Now, that was definitely deep into the rock on a hard place scenario for Rezel.
Yeah.
That was the lesser of 2 evils in his mind. So let's not go too far with that. But still,
So Rezel,
he's going to have to kill this before combat, before attacks are declared, and it's going to be a Bile Blight to take down the Heel Cutter. But you know what that doesn't do? That means that this thing gets to attack now. He doesn't have the mana to pump up his Warden of the First Tree, and there's 2 damage. Hello, make it 5. Shenhar takes his first damage of the game, but who cares?
Yeah,
Paul
Paul's gonna hold
Rezel's,
6 here.
yeah, his life total is dropping like, I mean, this thing is just
Not
almost
only,
over
he's
here.
at 6, and Shenhar has 2 Lightning Strikes in hand. He needs a Siege Rhino here, and an untapped land to cast it.
He has the Siege Rhino. I see stage 1. He may, God, what land is that down there? He's going to attack with the Warden of the First Tree. He knows that it's not going to get pumped this turn anyway. He does have the land, and he can play the Siege Rhino. Can he do it with no pain whatsoever?
Yep.
Green, yes, he totally can. All right, so back up to 9 for Rezel, and looking a lot more stable. Narrowly dodging death there, as you said. Shenhar had the lands and the double Lightning Strikes necessary to finish off Rezel. So that was about as close as it gets as far as that goes, and he's not out of the woods yet.
No, Shenhar has 9 points of burn in hand. So if Paul doesn't continue,
If he can't gain life this
that
turn.
life total, he's just dead.
All right, so he's going to go end step, strike you, untap, kill you.
Yeah, untap,
Okay.
strike you.
It's all 3 strikes. Okay. Well, this is a huge, huge swing here for Rezel if he can survive this turn. It looks unlikely. Remember, the Warden of the First Tree needs to be pumped and then pumped again, so he needs a total of 6 mana to get it to lifelink stage. Even if he did, Shenhar could just zap it. And also keep in mind that Paul, well, he needs to start casting some spells. Well, he's still taking 2 per spell that costs 3 or less, and that's going to add up to a Lightning Strike after just 2 short spells anyway. So this is not looking good for Rezel. Shahar with his streamlined, pure mono red deck. We saw that Owen Turtenwald's playing this list also.
It's clearly very good if you have players like Shahar, Shenhar, and Owen Turtenwald picking it up.
Totally.
I mean, those are not guys who like to, play rogue decks. They're trying to play the best deck in the format to maximize the value of their showing up to a tournament.
That's right. Here's Ward in the first tree getting into the red zone. And Shahar's seriously considering blocking.
Oh, I would absolutely block.
Yeah, he basically is saying, if I block, what happens? Well, I lose my Eidolon, but I force Paul to use up 2 mana for the turn, and it's really, he can't gain life for 2 mana, right? There's no spell he has.
So, I mean, if he pumps the Ward in here, then...
All right, Shahar decided not to block. He's going to take 3 damage, though.
Yeah,
and
that's
fall
fine,
to
though.
11.
He's going to win.
Yeah. Once the thing gets pumped either way, you just figure he's more likely to pump it if you block, but here comes Lightning Strike. And guess what? They say lightning never strikes twice. Well, sometimes it strikes thrice, and it's just about to here. And Rezel sees the writing on the wall. He's been on the other side of this match many times, being the more aggressive player, and he knows that he could easily be dead. And in fact, will be dead here. There's Goblin Rabblemaster. This is also lethal in combination with any spell from Rezel here. As Rezel's only got the 2 mana, but Shahar can just pull the trigger on this anytime he wants. He's got to be a little, I mean, there's a card he has in mind. I'm not sure which one. He may just want to see Paul tap that mana.
Yeah, he wants to prevent Dromoka's command from just preventing the damage from Lightning Strike.
Dromoka's command, okay. Right. But this would kill Paul Rezel if he did cast Dromoka's command, and Shahar is going to fire off Lightning Strike, and that is going to do it. Shahar Shenhar wins 2-1 over Paul Rezel, improves to 6-0 in the early stages. Remember, Shahar has 3 buys, so he's won 3 matches that he's played today, and he had 3 buys, so his combined record is now 6-0. Defeats a Hall of Famer, doesn't look too concerned about it.
Yeah, I mean, he has played against plenty of Hall of Famers.
Yeah, you don't win 2 world championships without beating a
old, but
the
that
game's
dude
best. Yeah, he's battle hardened for a young guy. Yeah. So back over to our secondary match here, where we have William Huey Jensen playing blue-white control against Christian Calcano on blue-black control.
Ooh.
Oh, grind clock gets negated.
But it seems that Huey has actually secured the waist.
Is that what those tokens are?
I believe
All right. Well,
so.
we'll get some real tokens in there as soon as we can. Secure the waist, a nice threat in these type of matchups. You can play it on end step and pick a fight on your opponent's turn, make them respect it, and they oftentimes take out their sweepers because they're so bad against you that you get to just keep crunching in there with these things. And wow, looks like these tokens are really going to work on Calcano's life total, and in fact, Huey won.
Wow, that's impressive. Secure the waist. That throws a wrench in my opinion of whether or not this match can be won in a reasonable period of time. Main deck, and that's very powerful against these other control decks because it's an instant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can pick a fight on end step, try to get it resolved. If it doesn't resolve, untap and play something huge, and if it does resolve, do that.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think? Calcano's not going to have Bile Blights or Crux of Fates in the board, post sideboard here. The way is completely clear, and how the heck is Calcano supposed to deal with all of those 1/1s? He needs to Perilous Vault them away or something. It's very awkward.
I mean, or he just needs to keep some number of Bile Blight in his deck.
Does he have to do that to respect it? He can also assume that Elspeth is going to be in the list here from Huey in a good percentage of the time, which gives you at least a target for Bile Blight, though I have to say usually you're losing by the time you're Bile Blighting their tokens away.
Yeah, if you're Bile Blighting Elspeth tokens, it's usually pretty bad.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, it's going to be interesting because having to battle through an instant speed card that presents that many threats is not an easy feat at all.
No.
Have you drafted Secure the Waste much yet?
Yeah, only once. I'm not that lucky.
Oh, okay. I had it in like my first 5 drafts in a row.
What's it like to be you? That's nice. Card is
pretty
great.
good.
It's great.
It's a fireball that
flexible.
can also chump block.
Yes. And it can fireball them repeatedly. I'm a big fan of that card.
Yeah, as am I.
It's been doing some nice work in Constructed too. It still hasn't found, that 4 of in some major deck slot, but it's around. You see it pop up here and there.
And I'm sure it'll likely increase in value as the format progresses and things rotate. Because once we lose Theros block, we don't have things like Anger the Gods. We don't have things like Drown in Sorrow, and I'm sure those cards will get replaced by things similar. But it's hard to say whether or not that card will be, as dangerous as it is now. This seems like a great home for it. It's a great finisher in
I like
this
this
control deck.
Yeah.
I really like the...
Harkens back to Decree of Justice.
Yes, very much so.
And control decks played that, right, back in the day?
Yeah.
And that made 1/1 soldiers for cycling. You would cycle it and pay X mana, and you would get them. And that was, of course, instant speed as well. It reminds a lot of players of that card. Now, Secure the Waste ends up playing out differently than that, right? It's not quite the same, but I find that you can't just cycle it.
It's not quite as free
no.
in your deck.
But it does seem to fill a similar role, and it looks like you can see, of course, these two professional Magic players playing quickly, getting the mulliganing out of the way, getting the sideboarding done, and moving things along because they both know that this last game could go pretty darn long, and they are going to need to play quickly if they're going to get through it. And it's to neither player's benefit to get a draw here. They'd really like to see one of them walk away with a W here.
I'm surprised Chewy didn't just go for Grind Clock there. Like, sometimes they don't have negate, right?
He's trying to draw out negate here with a Raise the Alarm, and Calcano's having none of it. So now
I'm not going to fall for that.
Well, now Huey has a
Big
clock.
bully.
And I don't mean a grind clock, I mean a life total clock. He's battling in there, and he's going to get in there and just start chipping away. This could actually work.
This could work. I mean, not anymore.
No. Men down.
Men down.
All right, well, if Huey can play a land here, he can go grind clock with negate up.
Yeah, and it's interesting though, because do you fight the war if they try to counter your grind clock?
Yeah. Card's hard to deal with, right?
I guess so.
And it's a win. I mean, it just sits there and says, I'm going to win this game. I think
how
you
do you
do.
really deal with that?
Blue-black cannot deal with artifacts as a matter of color pie, ability. So they have to find some really weird ways to get around it.
Yes, Perilous Vault is the perfect answer.
And that's just super slow.
Silumgar's Command.
Can bounce it.
Yeah, which, can set you up. Ashiok can just race it in the department of milling the opponent.
Yep. So there are ways, but I don't love it.
Right?
I mean, these are not great answers. And there we go. He forced it through. Grind clock is on. He had a life total clock, and now he's got a grind clock. He's hitting from multiple angles. Calcano's going to have to come up with something pretty quickly. Here's a Thoughtseize, but it's one turn too late. He sees another copy of Grind Clock, a Jace's Ingenuity, and a Dissolve. A nice little hand here for Jensen, who's also got a Flooded Strand, so he can cast any of those that he wants, including multiples. He could even have 2 Grind Clocks going, though. I suppose playing into a Perilous Vault with 2 Grind Clocks isn't worth it, so he'd probably rather keep the other one back. But now he just needs to worry about Ashiok here, right? And it looks like Calcano's got an Ashiok in hand and can actually play right away. See Calcano doing the old thinking hat up there. Why does Calcano wear Boston stuff? He's from New York.
He's a Mets fan.
Yeah, he's a Mets fan. So why are you wear a Red Sox hat? He must have got it for free or something. He won it in a contest.
I mean, it's probably that even the Mets,
I just hope BDM's not watching this right now.
And the Mets, I know they're winning this year, but it's been a long time that's happened. Maybe he felt like the reason he wasn't winning was because he had all that Mets on his head. It's this dark cloud looming over his head, quite literally.
It is a theory. The Red Sox have been more successful as a baseball franchise as of late. So we've got an interesting race here. You mentioned it a minute ago, Jake. We have Ashiok versus Grind Clock.
Yes.
Now, I don't know how this math plays out. Yeah.
You can do the math.
You can. So the way Grind Clock works is that Huey would normally get it up to a certain amount of counters. I usually see people stop at 4 or 5. You have to count your opponent's library and kind of figure out where you want to be, and then each counter, of course, is how many cards get milled when you activate it, and then they'll start activating it and just hit your library, 3, 4 times, and then you're dead. And it is another grind clock, because now Huey says, all right, if you want a Perilous Vault, that's fine, but you're going to lose Ashiok too. We're both going down with the Vault if you're going to do that. It's not even clear that Calcano has a Vault either. So I'm pretty confident that 2 grind clocks races 1 Ashiok in this scenario, though. That part seems good.
In terms of decking the opponent, that's true. However, Ashiok does have an ultimate ability.
Okay.
And it does exile the opponent's hand from the game.
It does. I don't think Huey needs a hand anymore.
You think this is all you need?
I do. I think double grind clock is gonna be the game. Yeah. Like, if Calcano can deal with it, then he's gonna want a hand.
Players for standard Winnabox number 13, please report to the Stronger board. Once again, standard Winnabox number 13 to the Stronger board. Thank you very much.
Tranquil Cove comes down for Huey Jensen, who just passes the turn back. He's not activating his grind clocks yet. He's going to spend this turn to get them moving as his library just goes spewing into the exile zone there of Ashiok. But only 3 a turn, and Huey right now can do 3 a turn. Ooh, there's a Perilous Vault though. So now this gets super interesting, right? Because if Calcano's milled enough to be ahead far enough in the mill race, then it can do it.
So if you're a VIP and you would like to see one of the artists with no weight.
All right, so what happened there is Jason's Ingenuity went on the stack, it got countered, but Huey activated both grind clocks to get counters on them, and now he can start milling for 5 a turn. He might have to do a library count here to make sure that he gets it lined up properly, but the Perilous Vault, like I said, what could happen here is that Ashiok's already peeled off, 9 or 12 cards from Huey's library. And Huey hasn't milled Calcano at all yet with the grind clocks. And here's a dig through time. And if the grind clocks have done nothing by the time they get exiled, then Calcano could just find himself far ahead in this mill race to just get ahead, stay ahead style. So we see Jensen digging through time here, hoping to find an answer of some sort. I see an Elspeth there on the top. That could be a plan B for him here, if the mill plan isn't viable. But he didn't take it as, he took negate and something else.
Which seems reasonable.
Radiant Fountain is going to bolster his life total a little bit as he passes to turn back in Calcano, who can now activate Ashiok and then even pop the Perilous Vault here. But he doesn't. He passes the turn back, and Huey kind of hesitates for a minute and says, okay, I'm going to mill you for 5 then.
Yeah, now it gets much more dangerous to put counters on these things because
Players
you
for
lose them to the ball.
Lose them immediately.
Please see a Johnny for your pairings, and the table number is right beside is where you'll be sitting.
So this does get interesting because, now that Huey's going to get 2 grind clock activations from both of them, he will have milled 10 cards away, which is approaching already what Ashiok has been able to do. 1 more activation, I think, would put him even. Interesting, a Perilous Vault of his own now. Now, what is that going to do? Is that going to force Calcano to use his Vault?
Huh, it's interesting because...
Like, it's just he's just
ways-
going to lose that to Calcano's Vault whenever he wants to pop it anyway.
Yeah, and I mean...
He just
knows he's
ultimated
sitting there.
Ashiok.
Yeah.
He just ultimated Ashiok. That got negate and dig through time out of hand, and now Calcano is going to fire off his Perilous Vault. That's why Huey played it. He knew that the ultimate was
so
incoming
he's
anyway, and here
getting
we
out
go.
of the hand
Calcano
anyway.
has a replacement Ashiok and is in the driver's seat to defeat Huey Jensen here. Awesome play by Calcano, ticking up Ashiok until he could get to the ultimate and setting up a situation where he could then resolve another Ashiok immediately afterwards and keep this mill train going in a scenario where Huey can't get out from underneath it. This is game 3. Both of these players have played very briskly, much to their credit. They did. There's many players that are playing this matchup that would not have finished it, but
I
these
think
2 guys have
people-
really done it. I agree.
Most people in this mirror would have not finished game 1, I think. I'm really impressed here.
I agree. A grind clock is probably going to be too late for Jensen, as basically Ashiok has been activated every turn for the whole game since Calcano's played it, and
And perhaps Grindclog not the best choice here. We saw Huey draw and resolve 3 copies of this sideboard card that's supposed to be a trump in the matchup, and it turns out that it matches up pretty poorly against Ashiok Nightmare Weaver.
Ashiok has just a completely other dimension.
Yeah, and I mean, it's also true, Randy pointed out, that, had Calcano not found a Perilous Vault, it would have been a much different game.
By the way, he just ultimated Ashiok again to get 1 card out of Huey's hand. So things are completely spiraling out of control here for Jensen, as Calcano has now ultimated Ashiok Nightmare Weaver twice in this game, and it was 2 different copies of Ashiok. Yeah, have all the grind clocks you want, my friend. That is not going to get the job done, as Calcano really just has access to a tool that that Huey doesn't, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, the fact that he has that black mana means that he gets to play with
he
Ashiok.
gets the 3 mana Planeswalker that Huey just doesn't get. And here's a backup Perilous Vault.
Just in case something
That's
goes
right.
wrong.
Something that maybe Calcano didn't foresee. In the meantime, up we go with Ashiok again, and you can see that library getting very thin for William Huey Jensen. He may have no win conditions left in the deck. I think he just drew a Perilous Vault.
Please find your seats. Again, round 3 turnings are up.
Too much damage seems to have been done here, though. Huey's just passed the turn back. He's also going to mill Calcano here. This must be during the draw step.
It is what it is.
Yeah, because now the marks are set, and wow. This is just nasty. Calcano immediately replaces his entire board, the Perilous Vault and the Ashiok. And whoa, here's a Planeswalker, though.
I highly doubt it's gonna resolve,
Elspeth. And Calcano wants to know what the count is. He's at 21. He knows he can take a bunch of damage. And he's like, sure, you're going to be dead before that thing even matters. And here goes Ashiok up again to bring Huey down to, I believe, just 2 cards left in library. It might even just be 1.
It's wise play again
2
there for Christian.
And that's going to do it. Christian
Recognizing this
Calcano.
Elspeth doesn't matter.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Doesn't
I'm
matter
only
at
going
all.
to counter cards that interact with my Ashiok.
Yeah, Ashiok proving to be the key card in the matchup. Perilous Vault taking care of the double copies of Grindclock. Huge, as well as, again, the blue and the black colors just can't touch artifacts, so he needs to rely on fringe cards like that